There's a website that when mentioned would probably manifest a collective groan and a look of disgust upon any internet-savvy Singaporean. It's HardwareZone. If you think that TikTok commenters are bad, HardwareZone commenters might seem like the grown-up versions of them that never managed to find love in the decades of incelhood and have reached their final form, a form full of hate, misogyny, self-loathing, racism, bigotry, and worst of all, unintelligible English. But what if I told you that HardwareZone is actually misunderstood? That their image amongst the younger crowd isn't exactly representative of the entire platform? Take a look at the Singapore Press Holdings website. If you peek at the menu, you'll see HWZ listed down as one of their magazines. It's HardwareZone, the same company that also owns the Straits Times and the Business Times. Take a look at this article by the Business Times in 2004. At one point, HardwareZone was raking in over 32 million page visits per month, pulling in over $200,000 a month in revenue. The founders even being touted as Singapore's very own Google boys. So how did HardwareZone go from a resilient Singaporean SME success story that survived one of the biggest financial crises in the world to becoming known as one of Singapore's most toxic websites today? Let's go back to the beginning. It's the year 1998. Changi Airport only had 2 terminals, Marina Bay was still a gigantic plot of reclaimed land, a stark contrast to the towering structures of the Marina Bay Sands today, and this is me, a wee little 1-year-old baby boy. In the National University of Singapore, 6 engineering students created HardwareZone as a hobby, a special interest group founded in June 1998. Initially named the Singapore Overclockers Group, it served a niche community of CPU overclockers that wanted to post and share their hardware configurations and overclocking results. Basically geek and nerd stuff. However, they slowly became so popular that the government initiative incubating them had to be like, dude, stop hogging the internet, because they were literally taking up 90% of their internet bandwidth. They had to move out because of that, and HardwareZone was born in August 1998 with a $20,000 grant from the Infocom Development Authority of Singapore, now IMDA, and a paltry investment of 1,000 Singaporean dollars, with most of their equipment being home equipment. You might think that things would have started out tough for them, but not really. Rapid growth arose for the company as they took full advantage of what will be known as the dot-com bubble. Within 1.5 years, online advertising revenue reached in excess of 25,000 Singaporean dollars per month, with membership being well over 40,000 on their website and discussion forum, and over 16 million monthly page views. HardwareZone was a resounding success because of their competitive advantage over more established competitors. They served the need for constantly updating prices of local IT products at places like Sim Lim Square and Funan IT Mall. Yes, Gen Zs, Funan used to be an IT mall very much like Sim Lim, less abeng, and as this TripAdvisor reviewer puts it, a more honest version of Sim Lim. Now, Funan is just vibes. HardwareZone was effective because they had created their own hardware testing labs to generate their own product reviews. They were honest, and reviews were more relevant locally, as tested products were available in the local mainstream market. Access to information was free, with money generated through online advertising, similar to what you might see in lifestyle websites today like The Smart Local and The Ordinary Patrons. They also formed partnerships with many local vendors in Sim Lim Square, further strengthening their advantage of timely product information updates. But the last thing they focused on is what will plant the seed which will turn HardwareZone into what it is today. And you guessed it, it's the community. The team at HardwareZone undertook extensive measures to nurture a strong sense of community among their users. Management replied directly to user queries to encourage interactivity. Physical gatherings like barbecues added a personal dimension to the platform, providing a chance to put a face to anonymous usernames. Not sure how much I would like to do that in this day and age because of stranger danger, but back then, it worked. Additionally, key contributors were identified and invited to the office for tea, given t-shirts and forum moderation privileges. Kinda feels like this is the local ancestor of the modern Discord moderator. This incentivized users to contribute more, and ultimately, this fostering of loyalty and community aided them immensely in surviving the dot-com crisis. Just a quick recap of the dot-com crisis for anyone that doesn't know about it. With the rise of the internet in the late 90s, investors were pouring billions of dollars into fledgling .com companies. It seemed like anything with a .com in its name was guaranteed to make a fortune. But then, in the early 2000s, the bubble burst. Companies folded, investors lost everything, and the tech industry was left reeling. Now why does that sound so familiar? In any case, HardwareZone had a problem. At that point, they were pretty much an all-online business with no physical presence. With a lack of investment into .com companies, they were faced with a dilemma. Scale down operations to cut costs or gamble by scaling up and sourcing for other avenues of revenue. And eventually, they took the risk and did this. They pivoted into selling magazines while updating their online website. I know no one in Singapore probably reads magazines nowadays, but you gotta understand that the internet was really new back then, and it was something that you couldn't exactly touch or feel. It wasn't tangible like magazines and newspapers. Anyway, this approach transformed HardwareZone, quickly pushing out its established competitors. That focus on the community had paid off. Community members were recognized for their contributions, with conversation snippets from forums being added into the magazine. These members would form the seed readership for the magazine. They expanded their coverage to include gaming-related content in Game Axis, an idea which originated from their very own community. And I'm not kidding here, but at one point, they even had a bubble tea outlet with drinks named after their more renowned members. Like just imagine Gongcha naming their drink the Bubble Tea Lover Xiao Mei Mei 88. And things were going great. So great in fact, that they even floated around ideas for an IPO. And for anyone that doesn't know what that means, it's an initial public offering that would allow you to buy and sell the company's shares on the stock market. In July 2006, they were eventually acquired by the Singapore Press Holdings magazine branch for 7.1 million Singaporean dollars. Let's fast forward to 2023. If you actually look up HardwareZone today, you'll see a media company that's still very much alive. This is one of the latest digital issues of the HardwareZone magazine. You can see that it's still really detailed, with a lot of information inside regarding tech news and products. Their website is still being updated with regular posts about the latest tech-related news, along with their Twitter, TikTok, and Facebook pages. They don't seem to be operating much differently from what they were originally doing in the past. So, what's the deal here? Why are they regarded so negatively amongst the Singaporean online public? Well, it lies in this obscure segment over here, their forums. And as we know with online forums with anonymity, they can get kind of toxic. These are just some comments I found through searching up an influencer's name along with HardwareZone on Google, and these are just the harmless ones. I've seen so many other comments that are way more vile and downright disgusting. Comments by online anonymous people that could well be in their 40s and probably having their own families already, objectifying men and women alike with their offensive and salacious comments. And then we get into the truly harmful category. Online anonymity gives these commenters the courage to post anything, including sweeping racist remarks that stereotype race and religion. For a country that relies not just on racial and religious harmony, but also tolerance, this isn't good for maintaining the fabric of our society. These are just a bunch of handpicked screenshots from this Twitter account compiling these truly seditious posts. You'll see comments directly mocking the term Allahu Akbar, which translates to God is great, a sacred phrase to Muslims that has lost its meaning in the online world due to terrorism, Islamophobia, and racism. HardwareZone forums is no stranger to controversy. In July 2005, a young man named Lin Zhenghuang made a malicious post claiming that Toa Payoh had been hit by bomb attacks one day after the 2005 London bombings that killed 52 UK residents and injured 700. Using the moniker Chrissurf, he titled the post, "Breaking News, Toa Payoh Hit by Bomb Attacks," making the post while connected to his neighbour's unsecured wireless network. People might think that it's just a hoax, it's harmless. However, it is important to remember that this occurred at a time when Islamophobia was likely at one of its highest points. With Islam being the third largest religion in Singapore, this incident could have caused nationwide panic. Lin was eventually sentenced to 3 months in jail and was fined $4,000. However, the police took more than a year to catch him and even falsely arrested his neighbour during the investigation. More recently, in January 2020, they received a correction notice from the government to correct an online post that falsely claimed the death in Singapore from the coronavirus outbreak. There have been instances of doxing that have occurred in real life, leading to police reports against some of the website's users. As we've seen so far, this community doesn't exactly shine themselves in the brightest light. But there is a silver lining, a tiny sliver of it. If you take a look at where most of these threats originate from, you'll see something in common. Eat, drink, man, woman, or commonly referred to as EDMW by the HardwareZone community. And it's actually outside of this that you'll find a treasure trove of information. There are clinics for any of your tech-related questions, a special interest and hobbies category where you can geek out about books and Legos with one another. The platform also has an entire category dedicated to travel, with subcategories for each of the most popular destinations among Singaporeans. And this surprised me the most, but there's even a category dedicated to parenting, kids, and early learning. Parents are able to ask each other about topics such as infant milk powder and government grants for a child born to a non-Singaporean parent with a long-term visa pass. Very local and informational. The information being shared, they're actually really helpful and relevant as well. These threads are very much alive, with new replies coming in just hours ago. And why I say it's a treasure trove is because unlike Reddit, threads with the most recent replies are pushed straight to the top. There's a permanence to these threads, housing a generation's worth of information for any one topic. It's so surreal, as this entire side of HardwareZone forums feels so detached from the perception many of us have of it. On one hand, we have a supposed toxic cesspool of middle-aged incels and shitposters, but on the other, we have a civil version of Reddit where people conversing on it are mature adults. This detachment is even more prevalent in the fact that the EDMW community has their own application available specifically for EDMW threads. Yes, it's an app that's on Apple and Android, and it has a 1.9 star rating on the App Store. So, we've established that EDMW could be considered entirely separate from the main forum and the publication itself. It mostly exists as its own community, and it's easy to brand these people with a blanket statement calling them incels, bigots, racist, and misogynist. But once you dive a little deeper, it's a more tragic story than you might think. Some of these people that hide behind anonymity, there must be a reason why some of them end up with this sort of behavior. You might have heard of this term called the incel. It's short form for the term involuntary celibate, and this might surprise you, but it started out as a welcome online community for people that were struggling to find love, started by a woman no less. But it has distorted to the point where it's become an online subculture filled with mostly male loneliness, a loneliness that warps itself into an incredibly hateful and misogynistic mindset where women are the enemy. Why? Because they can't get a girlfriend. Yes, the deprivation of emotional intimacy is possibly toxic to yourself. A lot of them seem to have simply resigned themselves to that life of self-pity. They are convinced that because they are so ugly and undesirable, that they would never find the intimacy that they desire. And Singapore's alternative and less ragier version exists in the BBFA, which stands for Pui Pui, Forever Alone. Pui meaning fat in Hokkien. Rise Media did quite a comprehensive coverage of this topic, but in summary, they managed to interview someone that identified himself as a real BBFA. Born with a disability, he genuinely feels like love is merely a distant dream. When asked about the community, he says that EDMW is full of BBFAs, and they are mostly people that are pessimistic or lack confidence in themselves. Scouring the forums, you'll actually realize that quite a number of them are very self-aware and unabashedly honest. The anonymity removes inhibitions and shields them from the repercussions that might come from sharing something that they believe in, yet is extremely polarizing. In reality, most people actually go onto EDMW to unwind and relax. The casual offensive remarks made are nothing more than the downstairs coffee shop talk to the posters, where comments are not meant to be taken seriously. Knowing this about the BBFA community, we can see that behind the facade that they put forth in their online profiles lies a group of people that we fail to acknowledge as we demonize the forum as a place for trolls. Does this make any of the online behavior we see justified? Hell no. Whatever sobby backstory that some of these people have, it doesn't discount the negativity that they spread online. But simply put, it's really not much different than Reddit, Facebook, or any online platform out there. The hate simply exists in different forms, and the negativity shouldn't be used as a representation of the entire platform as a whole. The community was even highlighted in an article curated by the Singapore Kindness Movement when they apparently rallied support for a fellow forum user who expressed suicidal thoughts. Not everyone on EDMW is toxic, and not everyone on HardwareZone is a shit poster. Some of them are dicks, but a lot of them aren't. Maybe some of them were dealt a bad hand, and what they need isn't to be shunned, but to be empathized with and understood. And perhaps, if you take a deeper look, you'll find some value inside of HardwareZone that you weren't expecting.